If you don't play counterattack, then it's because you are stupid. When you find your opponent unbalanced, you have a fantastic moment to score a goal. These words from Jose Mourinho, following his dominant 2015 Premier League title triumph with Chelsea, encapsulate what he and many others believe to be the power of counter-attacking football. Few managers are as closely associated with this style of play, which has long and widely been labeled outdated, overly defensive, and unexciting, standing in stark contrast to the controlled possession preferred by most elite European clubs. Yet, this Premier League season has witnessed an unprecedented surge in counter-attacking goals, with teams outside the Big Six significantly overperforming. What was once considered a tactic for underdogs has seemingly evolved into a more structured and lethal strategy than ever. This raises an important question. Why has counter-attacking and transitional football suddenly become more prevalent in the Premier League? To answer this question, we must start with a brief history of the tactical evolution in the league and the contrasting philosophies of two of its most influential managers. When we think of these opposing styles, Guardiola and Mourinho immediately come to mind. At the peak of their careers, they dominated the top of the game, leading the world's best teams at the time while showcasing their contrasting approaches in full force. For Guardiola, fast transitions have long been the enemy of his Cruyff-inspired tiki-taka, which he first implemented with remarkable success at Barcelona between 2008 to 2012, winning La Liga 3 times and the Champions League twice. During this same period, Mourinho was also at the height of his powers with Inter Milan and Real Madrid, but in stark contrast to Guardiola, his teams thrived not on ball possession, but on exploiting quick transitions whenever they regained the ball. While Mourinho's defense-first, transition-based game wasn't quite as successful, he was responsible for the only season Guardiola failed to win La Liga during his Barcelona tenure, as well as one of his 2 Champions League exits in the semi-finals. Even then, Guardiola's influence on the game was undeniably more significant, and it continued after he moved to Manchester City in 2016, transforming the style of play in the Premier League from what it was when he first arrived. These days, just about every team is playing out from the back. This season, for instance, 38.6% of goal kicks in the Premier League have ended in the opposition half, a huge contrast to the 74.2% recorded in the season before his arrival. Of course, Guardiola isn't solely responsible for this shift, but as he won everything he could in England, his tactics established a new standard that many teams sought to emulate. However, as possession-based football became more dominant, a tactical reaction was always going to be inevitable. By the way, if you're enjoying the video so far, subscribe so that you don't miss out on our future videos. Transition-based and direct football has never quite been completely dormant, but there certainly was a decline in its influence at the top level as more teams went with Guardiola's blueprint for on-pitch success. But as controlled possession became increasingly important, so did low block defending. For teams of limited resources than the likes of City, sitting back, absorbing pressure, and hitting superior opponents on the break was probably the only viable way to win. And as the top teams grew stronger and wealthier, these low-block teams had to adapt and become even more well-drilled and organized. These teams understood that allowing even the smallest gap for elite, possession-oriented opponents to exploit could be fatal, as once you fall behind against such opponents, finding a way back into the game would be a monumental challenge. Consequently, transitions have become more tactical. The concept of rest defense, where teams position defenders while attacking to prepare for counter-pressing upon losing the ball, is now coached and systematized. Teams increasingly attack how they want to defend and defend how they want to attack, adjusting how, where, and when they press accordingly. To watch our video about the rise of the Premier League's mid-table teams, click the first link in the description or the card in the top right corner. The influence and success of teams playing a more vertical, direct style of football have sparked questions about the future of the game. It's something Guardiola himself acknowledged in an interview with TNT Sports earlier this year.
The modern football is the way the Bournemouth play, the Newcastle play, like Brighton play, like Liverpool always have been like that, like we were. It's the modern football. The modern football is not, positional and being there. You have to rise the rhythm unbelievably. It could not.
This evolution is reflected most evidently by City's unexpectedly rough campaign this season. Surprisingly, in the Premier League, only Southampton, West Ham, and Brentford have conceded more shots from fast breaks than City, who have allowed 34. Bournemouth, in particular, have thrived this season with their high-pressing, high-octane style, aiming to force turnovers high up the pitch and transition quickly into attacking positions. They lead the Premier League in counter pressures and shots following high turnovers, contributing to them recording the league's most shots in transition and their contention for a historic European qualification. Bournemouth, however, don't sit deep and break over long distances like Nottingham Forest, who are currently flying high in third place thanks to their extreme counter-attacking game, evidenced by their league-low average possession share of 39.5% this season. They rank second to Bournemouth in shots from transitions, but with a remarkable total of 31 goals scored from transitions, they lead this category by at least 10 goals over any other team in the top flight. In fact, fast breaks are on the rise across the board this season, with an average of 1.84 shot-ending fast breaks per league game, more than any other season on record since 2006-07, and crucially, these fast breaks are resulting in more goals. This season has also seen the highest proportion of shots coming from fast breaks and the highest proportion of goals coming from fast breaks. In comparison, these figures were only 5 and 3.7% as recently as the 2021-22 season. However, it's far from just the mid-table teams that are capitalizing on transitions. Case in point, league leaders Liverpool are arguably the league's most multifaceted team, dominating possession against just about anyone, while also scoring many of their goals on the counter through their dynamic wingers. This illustrates that the resurgence of effective transitional football is permeating all levels of the Premier League, and that its impact is most profoundly felt by opponents who continue to prioritize possession and playing with a high line. Has this season been a sign of things to come or merely an anomaly? When you see several teams play an exciting brand of football and do well with it, it's easy to accept the idea that this is the direction the game is heading. However, the history of football tactics has long followed a cyclical path, and we may simply be returning to something reminiscent of Mourinho's heyday. At the same time, it's also very possible that the game has become so skilled to a point where top teams must excel in every facet. To dominate the Premier League this season, for instance, Liverpool had to be the best vertical team, and in that vein, the future champions may very well need to as well. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more football news, stories, and insights. Also, don't forget to hit notifications so you never miss a beat. And with that, we'll see you in the next video.